Hello and welcome to the How to Film Weddings podcast. My name is Nick Miller and I'm joined by my good friend John Bunn. John, how you doing?
Man, I'm doing good. I'm excited about today's episode.
Absolutely. Today is episode number 25 of our podcast, 25, and we're talking all about adding a photographer to your team, well, what that looks like. John has been having photography a part of his videography packages for a few years, and he just wanted to share some information about that because it's 2019 and 2020, and we're all about adding revenue streams and making more money for our business. But John has something really, really exciting before we get into that he wants to talk about. So I'm going to turn it over to John so you can drop this awesome knowledge, information.
Well, I'm really excited. I'm really excited about the podcast today. Even if you're not like into adding photography, listen to this one. It might make you think of your business in a different way. But the important, exciting announcement that we're really excited. We've been working with the folks over at Venture Workshop, and we're excited to now announce that we will be at Venture this year. We're going to actually be doing a live podcast recording. It's a workshop in Denver. It's May 6th through 9th, right there in Denver. There's going to be some amazing speakers. Nick, you went to Venture a couple of years back. Why don't you talk real quick about your experience there, just so the guests and the listeners can know what we're talking about.
Venture was an amazing experience for me. It really helped transform the business that my wife and I have, how we treat our couples, how we present our business and all of that stuff. We have, because of the things that we've learned in Venture, we have on average over the last year and a half or so upped our prices about $1,300 to $1,500
That's
average
awesome.
because of some of the stuff that we learned there. Great speakers are going to be there. White and Reverie, Forestry Films, Seth Dunlap, Jay Worsley, the Matt Johnson. You get to like stroke his beard. I know this year adding on Jordan Bunch and Scott McKenna are going to be there. It is going to be a super exciting time. Venture Workshop. And also this year it's something new, something different. It's been more kind of an intimate kind of workshop where it's been kind of smaller. This year they're going big. They're getting like a downtown city block or something like that and just going to have tens of hundreds, I don't know how many. There's going to be a lot of people there. They're billing it as the largest wedding video workshop in the world.
That's a pretty big deal. And as I was talking with Levi just about us being out there, they want us to be super involved. So we're going to be recording a podcast while we're there. We're going to be meeting people that come out there, getting to know everybody. I'm so excited to hang with all these amazing people that are going to be speaking. But also a lot of our listeners I know are interested in going. They gave us a promo code, which I think is really awesome, for $50 off. It's just HTFW50. So HTFW, the number 5, the number 0. Get you $50 off a ticket, and I'm really excited to be out there. Nick, I know that you're bummed because you're going to actually be in Alaska with your family.
I am going to be in Alaska with my
something.
family, swimming with some whales or something like that. I don't know what I'm going to be doing.
Which is a bummer. I might try to FaceTime you in or something like that. But
yeah, I'm on my cruise ship. Yeah.
So I mean, it's a good problem to have. It's a quality issue that you're going to be on a cruise in Alaska. But I will be out there. I'm excited to meet everybody. Use that promo code and definitely check it out for sure. And it's ventureworkshop.co is the website.
That is right, ventureworkshop.co. And so now we're just going to jump right into our podcast. Enjoy episode number 25. It's 2019 now. And, you know, a big thing at the beginning of the year is setting goals, right? And having financial ideas of what you want to accomplish and growing your business and all that. And so my wife and I, this last year, decided to maybe think about adding a photographer to our company, kind of an associate deal where, you know, we could refer them out and they would work under our brand and that kind of stuff. And I know that you actually have an in-house photographer. So I thought today would be a good idea just to sit down and chat with you about that process, how that works for you, how it's added to your business, how it's helped your business, has it hurt your business at all? So let's just jump into it right now real quick to start off and tell me about Redeemed Productions photography.
Well, first of all, I love this topic. Secondly, I've noticed over the past 17 podcasts, when you say photographer, you actually say photographer. Have you noticed this?
you could listen back. But you said the word fur at the beginning, which is pretty great.
Well, like at least I don't say. At least I don't say videographer.
Videographer is the best.
Yeah. Anyway, so tell me about your photographer. Your photographer.
So yeah, like 5 years ago, this is coming up on our 6th wedding season of having wedding photography. My wife and I were in the same position, just kind of contemplating, looking at adding a photographer, praying about it, just thinking about it. Like, what should we do? Should we try to do this? And I kind of have, I kind of had it easy in the fact that somebody came to me that was a photographer leading another studio. She was pregnant. She was a little bit stressed being pregnant, running a photo studio. And she actually just said, hey, are you looking to hire somebody that is admin? Do you need a business manager? I know weddings. I do photography. Maybe one day after, we have our baby, we could add photography back. And I was like, yes, I was just in the right position to have an admin for the office, and knowing that I might be adding photography, and I'd worked with her before, and the photography company she was working with was kind of transitioning out of weddings. And so the stars kind of aligned. So to start out with, that was, the first little bit about it for us is like, we really, I don't know if we would have ever pulled the trigger, but like that was the first thing when it came to the photography that I need to throw out there as a disclaimer. Yeah.
And I will say, as my wife and I have been thinking about this process and looking for a photographer, it has been kind of a challenge just finding someone to do it. And, do you go for someone that's totally brand new and totally train them how to do it? But I know for a lot of videographers that don't have photography experience, that could be kind of difficult. We're kind of different because my wife was actually a photographer for 5 years before she joined video with me. So that has been a major struggle, is finding that right person that could potentially come on with us.
Yeah. And to me, I would definitely strongly not consider hiring somebody that's just brand new to do photography. If you're wanting, you want somebody that's going to match your style.
Correct.
I had been looking just kind of, I love the business side of things, and I love running that and building the brand and the selling. And like, that's what I was, born to do. And so I was looking for somebody that loved photography, but did not want to like run a business. Maybe somebody that if you're thinking in your market, maybe there is somebody that's new and kind of starting to kill it, but like you realize if you could bring them under your wing, that could be a cool thing to do. But, Nina, our photographer, was already very much trained, had led about 150 weddings at that point, and, had 7 or 8 years of experience under her belt. So I got to kind of skip a couple of steps. But like if I were hiring one today, there are a few photographers that are in town that I know that are doing a very good job. And maybe instead of just saying, hey, can I hire you to work for me, opening up the conversation, hey, for a year or so, would you be interested maybe in, building a package together, or, just gauging with them, do they love running the business? Because you could really offer, like Nina loves her job because she doesn't have to worry about marketing it or selling it. And she, gets to come to work knowing she has a paycheck, knowing she has a job, without, having to worry about selling herself.
It's almost like when all of us start our own, video business or photo business, it's like Nina is actually getting to do what she set out to do, right? Where there's so many of us, we realize, oh, actually shooting and being creative is actually a pretty small part of running the business, right? Where,
Totally.
There's so many emails and the computer stuff and all of that, where it takes a while to get that going. And John just got up and left in the middle of my amazing, speech that I was doing right there. If you're watching this on YouTube, you're getting the whole thing. Like our podcast that we send to iTunes and that kind of stuff, like I will edit this down and totally cut this part out. But if you're watching this on YouTube, you get to see how rude John is sometimes. He literally just gets up and tells me to keep on talking when I am a Michael Scott sometimes, and I just start talking and hope I figure out where I'm going to go when I get there. And you're back. So what I was saying was that it's nice for Nina because she actually she doesn't have to worry about a lot of the business side of stuff that a lot of us small business entrepreneur type people have to do. So that's a major plus for hiring someone like that. Now, before we continue with this conversation and get into this even more, why don't you just kind of throw out some ballpark numbers of how now 5-6 years into having photography as part of Redeem Productions, how has that, financially added to your business?
Yeah. And when we first started, I knew it would be a few year process to get to a point where it's like making me money and not just paying for itself. The first year so Nina had her baby, came back, we waited a season, and then we decided, yes, we're going to add wedding photography. We started at that point at around $3,000 for wedding packages. And I think for the first year we did something like 15 or 16 weddings. So, I had to be able to cover her salary, shooting hours. But fast forward to 2018, we did, I think 22 weddings and averaged somewhere around 6,000 to 7,000, for each of the weddings. So
that was for photo only.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so like most of the photo packages, right now, as of 2019, we're starting at $4,450, and most people are adding, doing upselling add-ons to getting them to somewhere between 6,000 and 7,000. Some people do more, but on average, somewhere around that $6,000 mark is about where we're hitting. And so the goal this year is 20 to 25 weddings. So if you did the math, 120 to 150,000 coming in from the photography side of things. And we've kept it small on purpose because I don't want to overwhelm her, because she's part-time actually. So, we're doing, 20 weddings on her schedule, 20 hours a week. So, but right now, like as it's, sitting for this year, we will bring in somewhere between $120,000 and $180,000 for the company before any expenses. Mm-hmm. So it really does. But the other thing that I wanted to point out, once we started going, I started realizing like everybody wants a photographer, right? I mean, we battle this all the time. Like, everybody needs a photographer, doesn't see the value in video. And by the time they get to us on video budget, it's like what they have left over. They might have some crumbs of bread and a cup of water they could give us, but they don't have
exposure.
Like this.
They'll give us exposure.
They'll give us all the exposure. They're a blogger, so they'll post about us. But jokes aside, like you're kind of down near the bottom of the food chain. It's changing, especially over the last 5 or 6 years, but it's still not like we have to have video kind of thing. So people saying we have to have photo, they start reaching out to us for photography. And then that opens up the conversation where we can say, hey, have you thought about video? Have you thought about adding video to this package? We can build a custom package together. Here's some benefits of having the same team do video and photo at your wedding, one contract, one payment, like kind of starting to tell them about it, at least giving them the information for video at the beginning. So they're thinking about it, and we're building that relationship with them at that point. And they're like, oh, of course, And so last year, I think there were only 2 photo weddings that just booked photo that didn't end up adding video. So not only did it add, $120,000+ to our photo side of things, we booked like 8 or 9 video weddings because they came to us for photo first, which that was another $60,000 or $70,000 from that. So when I started looking at that and started running those numbers, I thought if in 3 years we could get to 15 or 20 weddings, we'd be able to pay Nina's salary and give the company extra money. And so that's kind of what we did. And to break down just a quick bit about like the way I do it with Nina, she gets a part-time salary. So she's here 20 hours a week and helps me run the office, and she edits the photos during the week. And then I also pay her an hourly rate on top of it to shoot for me. So she's guaranteed a salary to be here. I always have enough work for her in case we don't have photo weddings, but if we go shoot a wedding, she's getting an hourly rate to do that. So it really just makes it comfortable for her where she doesn't have to continually worry about, if we didn't have a wedding in January. And so that was my big selling point to her. Like, yeah, we'll give you a paycheck, and then if you shoot, we'll give you more money on top of that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's really nice. So now you're kind of getting over into this area where a lot of people might not know or understand with it. And I will preface this by saying that John and I are not lawyers. We don't know your state laws and that kind of stuff. But in going in that, she is actually considered an employee of Redeem Productions, correct?
Yep. Yes.
Okay. So the two differences, you have an employee, which is someone that you pay. So John is responsible for her taxes and all of that good stuff. The other option, the other side of it would be a subcontract employee. Mm-hmm. And a subcontract employee is you pay them $1,000 to do this job, and then they pay the taxes. You'd send them a 1099 form, and then they pay the taxes out of that money that they have made. Mm-hmm. And so that's where a lot of people, I think, maybe get confused or get hung up, or what should we do about this? I will let you know that whenever Jen and I have talked to this photographer about potentially coming on with us, we would treat her as of now as a totally subcontract employee. Where, and from what I understand from talking to a couple accountant friends, the big difference between an employee and a subcontract, one, if you are providing gear, that is a big into the employee realm. I do know that. The other thing, if you are setting hours for them, that is also a big thing of an employee. Now, so what we would do with this girl that we're talking to, we would ask her, hey, are you available for this wedding date? And then she would be able to pick her own hours. And then if we're having her edit, we say, okay, we will pay you for 10 hours a week. And then she is the one that gets to decide all of that stuff. So those are kind of the big things that may deter people or confuse people about subcontract employee or an actual, well, it's not a subcontract employee, it's a subcontractor and an employee. So what was your process with that? Like, was she an employee immediately, or did you kind of start her as a sub?
So she was an employee immediately, but I would recommend what you're doing.
Yes.
I was in a position where we were for sure overloaded, and I had enough coming in, and I knew for sure that like I could handle her salary with the video stuff that was coming in. She was able to help. This was before I had Shoot Q or 17 Hats, or like I was doing paper contracts. I had a whiteboard with my schedule on it. I mean, it was rough. And so she came in and she got us all set up on a CRM. She got us, like going in the direction and getting us organized when it came to that, getting all of our contracts on the internet. And just like, I was super archaic in the way I did it. I had like a filing cabinet with stuff in it. And so, I brought her on because I knew, hey, there's enough money coming in this calendar year already to handle the money that I need to pay her as a salary. And bonus points if we end up booking photography, then we will make more money. And so like, I knew that like for a year, 2 years, I'd probably break even or lose a little bit of money. But I knew that if on the other side of it, like where we are now, it's gravy on the biscuit. So I hired her and said, hey, you're part-time, extra hours, are this much. And it was all through our accountant. And I, like you're talking the difference between 1099s and contract labor and employees. Please talk to your accountant.
Yes.
Do not listen to us because we are goofballs, but we know what we kind of know, but like it's different in every state. Like Nick is saying,
we know enough to get people in trouble when it comes to this kind of stuff.
So
talk to a professional who gets paid, who knows the laws and knows the rules.
It's worth it. Definitely worth the money.
But I did bring those things up to tell you, if you are doing those things and you're treating them as a subcontractor, I bring that up to say you could potentially get in trouble with the IRS and the government if you continue to operate that way and you get audited or something like that. So it's worth checking into is all I was brought that up to say.
Right. And so to answer your question though, like, yes, we hired her as an employee, but if I were bringing somebody on today with the knowledge I have now, I would say, I would reach out to somebody and talk to them just like you're doing about a 2 to 3 year plan. Wild Oak Films is looking to add photography. We're looking for you to be our main person. You could, talk to them about, can you still do photos on your own? Can you, but like, the difference between an employee and the contract labor in Oklahoma would be, like if I was hiring somebody, hey, I'm going to pay you X amount of dollars to do photography on this day. You need to bring your own gear, your editing, we're going to pay you this much to edit the wedding. Don't care when you edit it. I just need it by this day, and we're going to pay you this amount of money. And I keep it very clean like that. And so that if I were doing that today, I would try to have somebody that I could guarantee 2019 and 2020 would be willing to do this for me and with me. And then I would start bringing them, in and trying to get them into the culture and showing them what we're wanting to do, and start trying to potentially pitch some of my current brides that I'm doing video on adding this photographer.
Right. So, I think now, okay, so you've been doing this for 6 years, the photo. So you, Ted, potentially were in the 150 plus.
Yep.
A year. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, just to maybe, I mean, that's a big number and we get that, but how much of that, what percentage of that are you actually taking home and literally all you do is like a sales call, right? I mean, you're not editing the photos. Is Nina editing those?
Yep.
Okay. So she like does all her editing on her part-time office time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So like, what is your percentage of that that's take home?
Yeah.
Just so we can kind of wrap our minds around what this can potentially lead to.
Sure. So in 2018, I haven't done all of the numbers, but I'm just about sure that it'll be right at six figures for me for the photo side of the business. So like around $100,000 that I will be able to pay John for that. And it isn't, you said it's just a sales call or whatever, but like I do want to.
I know it's more than that, but
I know, but I don't want to like falsify or like people think like, oh, well, if I can start a photo business, it's going to be, I'm going to make $100,000 and not, mailbox money kind of thing.
Sure.
It has been a lot of work on the marketing side of things because Nina has done none of the marketing and I've done all of the marketing. Luckily, she had shot a couple of weddings on her own that were not part of the photo studio that she was working with beforehand. And we used those to print albums and to get things going. And I started running the crap out of Facebook ads. 5 years ago, I mean, my goodness, it was like a gold rush. It was awesome. Like Facebook was so cheap to get out there. And so, I was spending a lot of money to show up to engaged females and just I knew that I had to like have the slingshot pulled back before it would go forward. Mm-hmm. And so it was like, I knew whenever I was, throwing tens of thousands of dollars into salaries and things like, okay, if it continues on this trajectory, it's going to go down and then it's going to, we're going to make money. And so now we've shot about 125 photo weddings as a company, 130, something like that. I was looking the other day and it's like this year we'll shoot 20 and we'll have somewhere around like, I would assume somewhere between 150 and 200K coming in from those. After all of the sales and the different things that we do, and if you factor in like 50,000 or so to pay the lead shooter to do a salary for them, and then, $50 to $75 an hour for them to shoot for you, or, different things like that, you can factor in somewhere around, $70,000 would pay somebody, they don't have to worry about anything and they get a $70,000 a year job.
Right.
If you're willing to take on that work, if I make 170 as a company and I factor in the marketing and the, all the things that go along with it, I've bought all new gear. I've done all these things. And so it's like technically last year was pushing a six-figure profit for me now, and so like that's 6 years in. 5 years in, it was like 60, 4 years in less. And in the first couple of years, it was like in the red. But
even if, and again, that's the thing that John and I really believe in and that we preach on this is, the slow, do the framework, build it slow, build it right, do it right. And so, it seems to be in a lot of businesses where if you're doing it correctly, the first few years, you get a little bit here and you're kind of scraping by making money, but then eventually it just like shoots up. Mm-hmm. And so that's a good approach to taking this and to doing this. Now, one thing that I would suggest like with this girl that we are talking to about potentially adding photography. If you want to do that, I think it would be good to have some sort of exclusivity with them. Like, and what I mean by that is we are running the business where she actually has her own business still. And we are not asking her to quit doing that for now. We are asking, but what we would ask is that if she shoots a wedding for Wild Oak Films, a photo wedding, then that would be a Wild Oak Films. Like, she wouldn't be able to use those images, on her website and on her stuff, because that would be for our company. But on the flip side too, we don't want to use her images from her company to promote our business, so I'm just saying that's a conversation that we have had, that you're going to continue to have if you want to move forward with putting a photographer on your team that is not an exclusive employee.
Yeah. And I think it's really hard to be very specific with the podcast, the listeners, everybody's in such a different place.
Sure.
But like, my goal with adding anything new now after doing this, and adding, I had 12 employees at one point. So like, I took everybody off of the employee status and moved them to contract in December of 2017 and really pared things back, because there was so much overhead that in months like January in Oklahoma, which we didn't have a lot of work, I would have $25,000 of payroll to hit, but like maybe only like $17,000 coming in that month. So I had to like make sure I had a huge amount of money in our savings.
Right.
And it was like this really annoying thing. So like, to each person, like if I'm in the shoes of adding photography, yes, I'm going to find somebody that like I can have a conversation and say, hey, here's my plan with you. My plan is to, by 2 years from now, have you as a full-time employee. This is what I'm thinking about. It would be roughly to pay you. And this is what you would get, extra to shoot. Or if you're not going to get, like, just lay it out there and try to find somebody, and that loves shooting, but might suck at business. And that's the perfect scenario, because Nina's like, I hate doing the business side of weddings. Correct. I love shooting. Yeah. I love being creative. And if you think about it, you can market it to somebody in a way of like, you just get to do what you love to do, and I will do all of the things, I've already got the business, I've already got the liability. And so that really can be a huge selling point for you.
Yeah. Whenever you find someone, you need to find an angle that will help them with their life easier. If it's a mother that has a small child and, she's just struggling because, I have, to take care of my child, but then I have to stay up all night to do all this editing or, whatever, then you promote it as, hey, you shoot and maybe cull through your images and then we handle the rest.
Yeah.
So you are getting time back. And that is a huge selling point to a lot of people that, again, like to shoot, but they don't necessarily like running a business. So go ahead.
Well, I was going to say this too, like, what you mentioned there about selling it in a certain way. Like, every time that I've ever posted on our Facebook page about needing somebody new, like, I'll post a graphic, Redeemed Productions is hiring, Redeemed Productions is hiring interns, like, I will put that out there and put a description that's very specific and just go fishing. Maybe somebody will contact me. And that is how Jessica, who is another one of our lead photography shooters, she came in as an intern under Nina, and started learning everything from her. And I would send her out as a second shooter on weddings. And now I'm training Jessica to shoot like Nina. And so now, like last year, we were able to do 2 photo weddings in a day several times.
Right. Right.
And so, because it is somebody that was taught by Nina and growing, but like all that to say, not to get off on that tangent, but like put it out there on your Facebook page and on your Instagram. We're hiring. Do you know somebody? Tag them in this post. You never know what you're going to get. And somebody might reach out and say, hey, I'm new. And you might say, well, hey, I'll do 6 months of like, some type of an apprenticeship with you and help you get going with this in mind. Like, I'm not doing this to like teach you how to be my competitor or something, but and that's a good way to add different second shooters to your video team or photo or all that. And so every single time that I've put that out there, I've had people reach out that were solid candidates.
Yeah. And this kind of leads me to a next point I want to touch on, and that's finding the right person, to do this. And sometimes you just throw it out there. Maybe you know someone, maybe you go to church with someone or see someone at the gym or, wherever you may go. And you're like, that's just a good person. Like, I like them. I like hanging out with them. Maybe they might be good at this. In our podcast where we talked to Scott McKenna a few weeks ago, he mentioned that with some of the people that he has hired, he literally liked them as a person. And he was like, you know what? I will find something for you to do. I have stuff that needs to be done. We will train you. We will figure it out. And I really like that approach of, I will find something for you to do if I like you and if I think that you can add something to my team. What was it that Jordan Bunch, I think on one of his podcasts with the Wedding Film Academy, he talked about, building his volume brand and how he hated it whenever he was looking for shooters. And he was like, oh, I went to UT Austin Film School or whatever. And it's these people that have these preconceived notions of what it is. And he was like, I actually prefer people that know nothing. And so then I can come in and train them. Now, when it comes to photo, if you're a videographer, that's a little bit of a different subject. But the only point I was making is, if you find the right people, you can still mold them and help them and teach them so that they can become something more.
Yeah. And when Scott was talking about that, I knew exactly what he was saying in the podcast, because not only, and I kind of read between the lines, but yes, you need to like the person, but you need to be like in love with their attitude and their work ethic. And so if you see somebody that's just like, oh, they're a hard worker, they're humble. A lot of these people that like, oh, I shoot video, I've got my own camera, a lot of the times they're just like way too full of themselves and they're going to be a pain in the butt.
Oh yeah.
And I've had those people that you're like, oh, I think they're going to be awesome and like be great for my business. But it's, they get in and they're just like, well, this is how you should do it. And this is how and I like somebody to help me grow, but like, I don't want somebody on my team that I'm writing the check for that I don't just love the fact that they're adding to my business. They don't have to be like me. I really want them to be not like me. And the fact like Nina is super detail oriented and very good at spreadsheets and keeping things in order and all the details that involve, like I'm the big picture guy. I'm going to, start this workshop and do this thing and sell these things or whatever. And Nina helps me to make sure to like put everything in order. So like looking for somebody that is a complement to your business and that you like them. Is where I guess I was going with that.
Yeah, that's really good. And
thanks, Nick.
Yeah, that also kind of pulls me back to our conversation with Daniel McCarthy from Music Bed, and how whenever we talked to him, we were like, hey, your customer service people are fantastic. They're so good. They're helpful. And he was like, yeah, that's a top-down thing. That's a thing where those are values that I have that matter to me. And so I preach that to my employees and I teach them that and I want them to act that way. So the same kind of goes, as you're looking for the right person to come on part of your team, can they get in line with your core values? Can they get in line with how you want to run your business? So just something to think about if you're considering adding a photographer to your,
you're laughing because you said photographer, aren't you?
Well, I did it on purpose that time.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So another thing that I want to move into is, as Jen and I have been talking about potentially adding a photographer to our company, one of the things that's holding us back is the marketing side of things, the extra time, especially starting out, that we're going to have to spend. And because we're talking to a girl that has her own business, has her own brand, we would need to maybe schedule a couple styled shoots. We would maybe need to find, a cheap wedding, even though she has a business, just to kind of get the word out and stuff. So we're looking at also a lot of time and also a lot of money for us to sink in, which, we would eventually see payoff, but it would take a while for us to see that payoff. So we're kind of taking a step back and just considering it and thinking about it. And, we've been awesome with our very open and honest with the girl that we've been talking to about how this process is going to work and, kind of where we are and what we're thinking about it. So do you have any advice to that? Or do you have any suggestions or thoughts on I guess, you talk about, making a 6-figure income, whatever, and all that, but there is some not downsides. Well, I mean, there's some work that goes into it. Do you want to just talk about that?
Yeah. I mean, so especially when we first got going, it was like pulling teeth to get somebody to be interested in us. I mean, we had one wedding, I think, and one engagement session that we had, before Nina started working for me, that like she had done for a friend in Virginia. So it was like, we're in Tulsa, Oklahoma. She had gone to a friend's wedding. And so we had images from this one thing. And so, I mean, we made, as much promo material as possible out of it. And then we just started, kind of bootstrapping. Okay, how can we get images? How can we get people to trust us? The first wedding we did for photography, somebody booked us for video and they saw we did photo and they're like, oh, okay. And it was like, back then we were a little bit bigger shooting 50 or 60 photo or video weddings. And so it was just like, yeah, this wedding's happening at the Tulsa Zoo. It's a couple that is from, they were from Africa, and she was like an African princess. This is no joke, but it was like this completely incredible, random. They just called us and said, we're ready. We want to book you for video. Oh, you have photo. We'll book that too. And it was just like, because we offered it. So that first wedding we did was completely non-traditional. I mean, they got married out in front of the lions. There was like, it was this weird, and it wasn't necessarily a showpiece wedding, I guess, but like it gave us a little bit of something image wise to like just start saying this is what we do. And I think that done is better than perfect. We keep saying that and hearing that. But like to me, having something done and having something out there just to be in front of people is better than having the perfect thing. But if I'm in 2019, I'm going to a workshop that has a styled shoot. I'm creating a styled shoot. I'm doing things like that. That's how I would market it today. Instagram didn't exist really. It kind of did, but not really. And so just being able to find people that want their images taken and executing on that.
And a nice thing is if you have your video business, you can, if you have a following on Instagram or Facebook, or you already have a little bit of a platform where you can start at least pushing that out a little bit easier, than it would have been a few years ago.
And like for that, like what I would recommend doing, just like we would recommend if you're starting a video business, is you might have to do a few free things. I mean, if you say, who wants to do a styled shoot downtown tonight? Or, hey, we're going to the Waffle House and we're going to do a fun styled shoot there. We're going to go just like sending your photographer out, paying them to go do some fun things that you like. If with 3 or 4 styled shoots, if you're paying $200 to send a photographer out to go take photos of somebody, it's $800 with 4 of them. And that's a cost of business. And then if you had 4 shoots where they had 2 different looks and you did them starting during the day and finishing at sunset, you probably have somewhere around 100 solid Instagrammable images at that point.
Sure.
And then it's off to the races, putting them online, putting them on Facebook and using them, with Facebook ads, marketing straight towards, engaged people, and then just not fake it till you make it, but be confident in yourself, be confident in what you're doing and saying, Wild Oak Films has added this photographer that has, been tried and true and tested here. They're a great, asset to our brand. We're adding this. If you know somebody getting married, let us know and just be honest with people. We're adding this. We're building this. The first couple of years, I think my marketing was, we have a solid video company. We've added Nina, who's amazing, but because we have only done this many weddings, we're doing it for this much off. It's gonna be $4,000 in 2 years, but we'll do it for $2,500.
Right.
And obviously we had to pay our bills and stuff, but to me, any money coming in on the photo side of things was just going towards getting to that number to break even on it. And so, that to me was a wedding in the can was way more important to me than like getting $3,500 instead of $2,500 or whatever. And so once we got that first wedding, the African wedding, we were able to like start marketing with that. And then somebody else booked us, a really cute couple that got married at a lodge here in Tulsa. And it was like, boom, those images, they shared those images. We did the work, and every day we're posting on Instagram and on Facebook and just growing and grinding and growing.
Yeah.
And so I've just done, at this point, 5 years of working on that to get it to be like people don't even know that we didn't always offer video and photo. Right. So it's definitely, to answer your question way back, a ton of work, but like I could see 5 years into the future because I'm like a mind reader and stuff, but I could see that if it worked out, like I was going to be able to benefit from it, and not only benefit from just the money coming in from the photo side of things, but like we are now one of the first people with the photography that brides are coming to. And every single wedding so far this year that has booked for photo has also booked for video. I have a few more video weddings that already had a photographer, but like every single photo wedding has booked us for both.
I can't tell you how many times, and most of our listeners can probably attest to this, that whenever someone contacts you to potentially shoot your wedding, they already have a photographer. I mean, we're in the, 95% or above, or it's people that are just now starting to search out and they, have no clue because they're, doing everything at once. But most of the people we talk to already have a photographer. And I think you said one time that one of the big reasons why you wanted to offer photography is so that you can get your foot in the door to do video earlier.
100%. It definitely so right now people are reaching out to us and I ask, are you interested in video, photo, or both? Like, it's on our on our website where they can pick both. They can set their budget for both. But we have now the majority of people contacting us first for photo. And like, oh, I saw your photos on Instagram. Jimmy and Susie shared their photos.
Right.
I didn't realize it. You do video too. That's awesome. And so like that happens so many times. And like, so it's very, very beneficial to be early, and they get that look at our website. Oh, they came there for photos. Now they're seeing these videos and they're like, wow, these are like Hollywood movies, And so again, I remind you, wedding video people, we are in our world all the time. Like we are thinking about wedding videos and how awesome our videos are. But like a bride, a 22-year-old, 23-year-old girl that's getting engaged this weekend may have never heard of you or thought of video. They've always thought of photo. And so like by being able to say, oh, when you type in Tulsa wedding photographer, Redeemed Productions comes up, they click us and then they see our videos. They haven't even booked their venue yet. And they're like, oh my goodness, I was looking for a photographer. I've seen, what you're doing. And oh my goodness, like video might be more important to me now. So
that's
big benefit for sure.
Yeah, that's a big, big benefit. However, how do other photography companies in town or the area feel about you being more of a one-stop shop?
Yeah. And this is one of the major cons that I've pulled from, it was a decision we had to look at and make, because when we're marketing with other people and we're, networking with other people, a lot of the time photographers are referring us, and so wedding planners and photographers are the main source of my referrals, the day before I hire Nina, and I was nervous, are people going to, refer me anymore? And so it did take some time in reaching out to the people that I knew had referred me, just saying, hey, just so you know, if you refer me, I'm not going to mention photography, number one, which I know that it still hurt our, potential referrals. And I knew that the first couple of years, it would definitely be, a transition. I don't necessarily think you should come into your market and just try to blow it up with we're the best photographers now. Or, I would maybe reach out to the photographer friends of yours that you respect in town and say, hey, just so you know, next year I'm looking at adding this, just so you know. I just want to be open with you and honest with you. I always, and I'm always going to continue to refer you, but we're doing this. And to this day, I still refer photographers that are not ours. And so I have built that relationship and have great relationships still with other photographers. And a lot of people are like, oh, I will refer you once I book my photography wedding, and so which I'm cool with, but I think people just need to realize that you're not there to take over the market and be this big business mogul, but you're really just trying to run a successful business for you. And if you can help get that across to the people that you're getting referrals from, if you can really help them see, I'm not here to take your business, I'm just here to reach a market that is very similar to mine, you will continue to get those referrals.
And I think that if photographers like thought about it and they were actually business minded, like they would like, oh yeah, that totally makes sense. Like how many of them, if they could offer video, would do it in the drop of a dime? Like they totally would. And whenever my wife and I were, considering, maybe thinking about adding a photographer to our business and, what that might look like, I actually went to one of our really good photo friends in town and I asked her, hey, we're considering this. We're talking about this. What are your thoughts on it? And she said, do it.
That's
like,
awesome.
If you want to grow your business, do it. And then she was like really candid with me. She goes, I have been thinking about adding video for about 2 years now. We're just not at a place that we can do it. And my thought was, you know what? If you can, do it. Like if you want to succeed as a business, like you can't be afraid of that kind of thing. And I think everyone, if you like sit down and objectively and logically think about it, it makes sense. And there is enough business for everyone. Like there is. People are always going to get married. There's always going to be all of these weddings and stuff that are going on. And so if you want to succeed and grow, that's definitely maybe a step that you need to think about, that you need to consider about, growing your business. Is photo something that you are really interested in doing? Is it worth the extra work? Is it worth all of that stuff? And maybe not getting those referrals. But at the same time, my thought is, okay, every wedding that we do, it's not going to be Wild Oak Films does both the photo and the video at this person's wedding. Like we will still split up. And so if our photographer is booked on this day, I'm still going to refer these other people that I really like. And hopefully they would do the same with us.
Yeah. And I was going to say too, like, first of all, that made me think there have been days where we have photo weddings going on, but not video weddings going on. And that is awesome. Awesome, my friend. Because like I'll be sitting at home and be like, oh my goodness, there's like a $9,000 photo wedding happening right now. And I'm watching Scooby-Doo with my kids or whatever. It's like, this is great. Like, this is awesome. Yeah. And so like there have been days like that where it's just like, wow, this is incredible. I mean, but like I would caution people, like if you're going to go into something like this, definitely be very strategic with your numbers and look at it and don't just be like, well, I'm going to give this a try. This is something that if you do it and do it wrong, it could really, really hurt your business. It could make it where you not only look like a goob, but you could look like you're trying to, take over. But like I would go into it with a minimum 3-year plan and say, I'm going to do this. I need somebody, if I'm going to do this, I need somebody that can sign on the dotted line saying that they are willing for 3 years to be my main photographer. I need somebody that is willing, to be there. I need a plan for 3 years or it's probably not for you. Yeah. And even with this talk, if you're like, there's no way in heck I would just add photography to what I'm doing. I feel like this podcast is still helpful to you because you should always be thinking of ways to put another bucket out to catch more when it rains. What other things can you be doing to generate more money for your business and what fits, and when my wife and I were talking and praying about adding a photographer, it was like, it's gotta be somebody that is like, has the same value system as us that like just fits. It needs to fit. It doesn't need to be friction. And so like, if it takes a year or two to do that and you just kind of have it out there, every little bit, you're just kind of searching, you're putting your feelers out. You work a wedding with somebody that it's like, they might be newer and they're awesome. It's like you as a, if you've been doing business for 3 or 4 years or 5 years and somebody is newer, you might be able to sweep them up before like they have to go through the heartache of, running the business, which they're going to end up hating. And so, you can start just making relationships with people and thinking about it over the next year or two and always be thinking about like, what kinds of things could I be adding to what I'm doing to serve our brides better? Yes. And take better care of them. And what other things can I do to make more money? If they both line up and they both fit, it really is awesome. And the last thing I was going to say about just like serving your couple, the weddings that we have video and photo, I am able to serve our couples way better than I am with a photographer that I may have not ever met. And it's something, a selling point to brides to say, hey, if you book our team, I touched on it a little bit earlier, but like, we're going to have one contract. You're going to have one set of payments to make. We're going to do one consultation where we talk through the video and the photo. Everybody's going to be on the same page. We're going to meet before your wedding and have a whiteboard meeting where we're going to say where people are going to be during different parts of the ceremony, the reception. We know where we're going to hang your dress. On a wedding day where I'm working with somebody else, especially if I've never worked with them before, there is the potential for them to be in my shot a lot or to not want to, to ruin the audio during letters. And so I've trained our photography team to say, hey, if the bride's reading a letter, don't click your camera unless like she's getting emotional or it's between sentences. Try your best to just pay attention to the fact that I'm here. Or, hey, let's all follow the 180 rule. We're all going to be on this side during the first dance. And if it's something where I can sell that to the bride as a service, like I'm helping you, your day is going to be much easier. I literally am saving them money by saying we can do all this in 8 hours, where another photographer might say 10 hours. And then now I've got to be there for 10 hours because, they want to start at this time. And so I can really serve them. And I do offer, until this year, I offered a combination discount. I would give them 5% off the total, and if they're spending $10,000, that's a $500 discount for booking both of us, because I knew that it would save me that much amount, that amount of time in my post work, editing work. And so like, if, it fits, if you're able to add value, that is when you should consider something like this.
Yeah, man, that's all really, really good stuff. So, as we think about adding a photographer, maybe just all great things to consider. And it's all about growing your business. And if this fits in with your workflow, if you're listening to this and you're like, man, that sounds like too much work, it's not worth it. Okay, that's totally fine. But the big thing is the takeaways that I'm getting from this is, one, have a plan. It can be, a slow, I said something stupid, didn't I?
No, I was taking a drink and water spilled all over my face.
Oh, that's great.
I took a drink and just went all over my face. And
okay, so the couple takeaways that I have from this is, one, have a plan. Figure, for your, even if that's year one, we're even going to shoot, try to just get 5 weddings, something kind of small, and then just build from there. And then the other thing is, number 2, is find someone that fits in with your culture, that fits in with your ideals, that someone that will act like you want them to, how you do, how you model, and all of that stuff, so that you're putting the same front out to everyone, right? You're putting that same brand out to everyone. So those are 2 big takeaways from this that I'm hearing John say. Would you agree with that?
1,000,000 bajillion %.
Million bajillion, people. Million bajillion. So before we wrap this episode up, do you have anything else that you want to add about potentially bringing on someone else to be part of your team?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the thing that I would say is count your cost, look at your numbers, the thing we talk about before adding anything, and sit on it for a little while. Don't just make a decision. Sit on it for a little while. Think about it. Maybe if it's, right now it's 2019, maybe you're like, hey, I'm going to start doing some styled shoots in the fall. I'm going to, start thinking about that and testing it out. Maybe do a styled shoot where you pay a few $100s for a photographer to come do it. See how you like it. See how you like working with them. Shoot some video, make it a win for you. But, just start moving towards that. And then if you feel a roadblock or like the door shutting, shut the door for a while, put it on the cabinet, think about it later. But if you don't at least take some action steps and get moving, it won't ever happen. And so, that's the main takeaway for me. And the other thing too, is that if somebody has more questions, because there's a lot of potential questions, just hit us up on our Instagram at How to Film Weddings and send us a direct message. Nick and I kind of fight over who responds first. So we're very active currently.
I don't really fight because I don't get a chance, because they're already responded to by the time I get to them.
Yeah. So we really enjoy helping people. We really enjoy answering your questions. And so your questions give us more good content to help others. So don't be afraid to even just ask us questions. We love that feedback from you guys. And that's the main takeaways for me.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. So if you are watching this on YouTube, we hope that you have enjoyed this almost like live cast that we are doing here. We're going to try to do this with our podcasts, put them on YouTube, and then you can see our faces as we talk.
We're on YouTube? Tell us about YouTube.
Yeah, I don't
We're
know.
on YouTube? Where will they find us on YouTube, Nick?
Yeah, it's just youtube.com/howtofilmweddings.
Man, they should subscribe there.
Yeah, they should. You should subscribe there. Also, be sure to, rate and review us on iTunes or your podcast catcher, whatever you're looking at. It really helps us know that we're putting out good content, but it also, the more ratings and more reviews and stuff you have, it's easier for other people to find us who might be looking for this kind of content. So please help us out and do that. We thank you so much for listening. Hope that you have a great day, and until next time, see ya.
See ya.